So we have a learning theory, right, that was implemented by our computational cognitive model using various types of math. It's pretty good at capturing children's target behavior. And so it may be a pretty good explanation, therefore, for how children acquire at least some syntactic island knowledge from their input. But, is there anything else? Well, of course there is. This is science. There's always more, right? So what about other syntactic island knowledge and other knowledge about wh-dependencies? Like, how do kids acquire those other types of knowledge, right? And so just to remind you, like just some even related types of wh-dependency knowledge. We have this kitty whose antics make Lily laugh. She wants to get him in order to pet him. And here are things that we're actually pretty happy to ask. What did Lily get in order to pet the kitty? What did Lily get and then pet the kitty? What did Lily get before petting the kitty? Great. But now, right, remember this puppy is also really adorable. Lily wants to pet him too, but she has to get the kitty first. And all of a sudden, when we want to ask about this situation, like here are things that we're not so happy to ask. What did Lily get the kitty in order to pet? What did Lily get the kitty and then pet? What did Lily get the kitty before petting? Like they all don't feel good, even though they're, gosh, so similar. So how do children learn that these dependencies over here that have multiple gaps are somehow much more acceptable than these which seem so similar, except they only seem to have a single gap, like in the same spot? Like what's going on? How do they learn this? How do kids develop this knowledge, right? Good question. And for example, can this learning theory that did so well before, this learning theory about the right building blocks, can it explain how children develop this knowledge where they prefer these and disprefer these? Here's another kind of interesting question. We know some child preferences about wh-dependencies, which we can mostly explain. So the fact that if we compare these two dependencies, what did the boy fix the cat that was lying on the table? We're asking about what was the cat lying on the table with. We strongly disprefer that dependency compared to what did the boy fix the cat with, right? We also know that, there are ones that children prefer that are longer. Who did the policewoman help to call? Children prefer the calling, who are we calling, versus who did the policewoman help, who are we helping, right? But here are some preferences we have yet to explain. So it turns out that by age 5, this is studies from results from Amaki et al. 2014. If we can compare these two, children prefer this one. Where did Lizzie say that she was going to catch butterflies? So we're asking about where the catching butterflies happened. Versus where did Lizzie say that she was going to catch butterflies? Where did the saying happen? Kids prefer to interpret this to mean about where is the catching happening. But swap out some of the material here and you get a swap in your preference. Where did Lizzie say to someone that she was going to catch butterflies? Kids don't actually quite disprefer the catching butterflies interpretation compared to where did Lizzie say to someone? Where is she saying to someone that she was going to catch butterflies? And the same is true if you shrink it to tell, right? It's not just longer lexical items versus shorter, like, in this case, say versus tell. Where did Lizzie tell someone that she was going to catch butterflies? Kids just prefer the catching butterflies interpretation compared to the telling interpretation. In fact, get rid of the someone, really just tell someone where that she was going to catch butterflies, right? So these are preferences that we know children have by age 5. Could this learning theory about the right building blocks explain how these preferences develop? Who knows? Good question, right? If you remember, too, this learning theory was able to explain the development of a lot of the target knowledge, even when there were some hopefully childlike memory limitations. But of course, memory's not the only thing developing, and the way that this, that we investigated isn't the only way that memory could be impacted. So what if children's developing memory impacts their intake in other ways? So maybe not just forgetting lexical items, say based on position, like a recency effect, but maybe forgetting them based on how frequent, or in this case, infrequent they are compared to other items that are in that same input signal. Not just forgetting lexical items, for example, but maybe also forgetting structure, right? Oh, right, okay. And maybe also misparsing the input and being unable to revise that misparse in time, which is definitely something that happens. So something that should be, say, an embedded dependency getting misparsed as a main clause dependency, right? What happens, right, if this is sort of the idealized intake signal, but you have all of these imperfections due to children's developing abilities that affect what intake they actually get to learn from? Could this learning theory about the right building blocks still explain the target behavior even in the presence of this imperfect, immature intake, as it were?